Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Cold Steel Spartan. Holy moly, this thing is huge. This is a bit overdue because this knife has been around for a while, but it's absolutely still available. So I'll link it right down in the description. You guys can pick it up if you want. It's really not that expensive. Thanks so much to the gentleman who sent this in for review. Thanks so much to my generous patrons for supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. This is a big knife. This was designed by Andrew Demko, who did a whole bunch of cold steel designs. Now, when we hear Demko, we think 8010, 8015, and especially the 8020. Overall length, a whopping 10¼ inches. Wow. Blade length, 4.5 inches. Cutting edge, very close to 4¼ inches. Huge knife. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2? Yep, it's big. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? I seem to be drawing the same conclusion from that size comparison. And finally, the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Benchmade Bug Out. Seems pointless currently, right? It's a big knife. How about carry profile? This is a folding knife, so it is meant to go in your pocket. It's pretty thick. Yeah, wow, it's very thick. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. Yeah, longer, taller, thicker, right? I mean, this is cold steel we're talking about. So this is a pretty common theme, and usually we have people jumping in saying, "Hey, you think that's big as a jam? A Cold Steel Spartan XL." Yeah, we all know that knife exists, and it's ridiculous too. This is kind of a ridiculous object to carry in your pocket. Now, it depends on your occupation, right? What you're doing every day. If you have an office job, this is super duper overkill, and it's going to be inconvenient. You can pretend that it isn't, but it's gonna be, right? If you're outside all the time, you know, maybe you demand more from your knife. I don't know. We're gonna talk about that a bit more. But plain and simple, this is just gonna be kind of an uncomfortable object to carry. As is the case with all things, you will probably adapt to it if you really, really, really want to carry this every day, but for most people, it's just gonna be too big. We have a sort of polymer injection mold plastic handle with steel liners backing it up, so that's good. Then we have the triad locks. We've got some extra steel back here. And then we have AUS 10A, which I don't mind at all, especially considering the price. How much does this weigh? A lot. We're going to weigh it anyway. Yikes, 9.21 ounces. That's a lot. Coming from somebody who likes to carry a big knife, right? My full titanium XM24 doesn't weigh that much. That's a big knife, right? But this, yeah, it's, you know, it's tall, long, thick, heavy. It's just big. It just is. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. Get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. I'm going to try a T10. Yeah, it's a T10 on the pivot. And then for whatever reason, we have T6 screws. Funny. Wish those were T8. They're not. They're T6. If you want to take it apart, you're going to be working with a lot of T6 screws. And T6 screws suck. But it is what it is. It's not necessarily a deal breaker. Blade stock thickness. That looks like, I don't know, 165 thousandths. Let's find out. Okay, it says 148. Probably about 150 thousandths. Not overly thick for cold steel, right? The SR1 is substantially thicker. But still, you know, definitely robust. So, not gonna, I can tell you right now, it's thin enough behind the edge to cut, but it's, and they did a decent job thinning it out, you know, even with starting at 150 thousandths, it's still not the thinnest thing behind the edge, but it'll do the trick. I think that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and move on to the meat and potatoes of this review. So this is one of those knives where if you're going to open it like a regular person, you can open it with 2 hands, or you can use the thumb thing, right? It's meant to actually latch on to your pants, and so you can pull it and it deploys, right, automatically. So if you can imagine my finger as the lip of the pocket or the seam of the pocket as you pull, right, and then it deploys. Emerson wave kind of thing. That's okay. Yeah, it technically does deploy faster than anything else out there right now. It's just, you have to ask yourself, how often are you getting into scenarios like that where pulling a knife that quickly is of the utmost importance? It just seems kind of... you're going to go to a lot of trouble to make sure that you have that, you have that tactical advantage, right? And then you have to ask yourself, do I really want to be in a situation where, what I'm using in that scenario is a knife, right? A lot of people would say, well, it's better than nothing. I would just rather run. I'd just rather not be there. I'd rather run. I'd rather not give, as people have talked about many times, you don't want to give that person something that they can just use against you. But on this channel, we don't really, I think about these things, as the items that they are most often used as, which is a tool. So, sure, the feature there is a tactical feature designed as a catalyst of sort of self-defense initiative, I guess you could say. But the other 99.999% of the time while you're just walking around and living your life, this is the object you will be pulling out to use for simple things, much more common things like opening boxes or, I don't know, just little things that you might use a tool for, right? Yeah, it's, I guess, designed that way, and, in that situation, it's going to function really well. But it's, the rest of the time, the thing's just going to be a massive, massive inconvenience. And, most people, and I mean that, most of the people who buy this will never, ever use it for its intended, if the intended purpose is the tactical deployment, and then, hey, hold on, hey, back up, buddy, right? 99.999% of people who buy this will not use it for that. It will just permanently be a giant inconvenient thing in your pocket. And that's hard for some people to hear, right? But as long as you can legally carry it in your area, not that that stops everybody, there's nothing stopping just a regular civilian from buying this. It's not like you have to be a special operative or, have to present paperwork like I am a certified ninja, so I can carry this. Oh, yes, I can see here that you are a ninja, sir. Here you are. Here's your cold steel Spartan. No, you can just buy it off Amazon like a normal, boring person, right? Anybody with $75 can get this knife. A lot of times the look and the nature of something, right? This looks very aggressive. It looks very tactical, right? That gets people excited. It's creative marketing. And Cold Steel has, they blew up into this massive company because that idea caters, to a lot of people who just kind of enjoy living that fantasy on their couch. And I get that. That's kind of how I got into knives. I was like, ooh, cool, And again, sure, something like this may be exactly the right object for exactly the right scenario. But most of the time, it's just going to be a gigantic, inconvenient thing. Speaking of inconvenient things, we have a huge recurve blade, which, yeah, sure, the recurve can help draw material into the belly. But we are quite a ways from that. Let's say you wanted to break down a cardboard box, something that you're far more likely to interact with this knife. If you're going to, really push that blade into the cardboard, like if you're gonna let the tool do the work, as they say, if you're gonna grab it in the position where your index finger is back here where it's supposed to be, you're quite a ways from the cutting edge where it's clearing this tactical rectangle. Yeah, you can choke up on it, but you are pushing that tactical rectangle into your hand. So I hope you have a nice pair of gloves if this is really what you're going to use. In that situation, you find yourself in that situation, pretty much anything, like a kitchen knife, like walk to your kitchen and just get a kitchen knife, and that's going to be a better thing for breaking down cardboard boxes, because this really isn't. You know, it'll do it. Little things like, will it open a package? Well, sure. Will it cut a zip tie? Sure. Cardboard, rope, rubber, wood, it'll do that. It just won't do it as well as a knife that's, you know, designed for that. Again, it depends on what you're using it for. The blade, they did their best to get it down to a relatively thin edge, and sure, you know, you could sharpen it yourself and get it, you know, a bit thinner. It's fairly thick behind the edge. It'll do it. I wouldn't worry too much about toughness with this thing. AUS 10A is pretty tough. The geometry of this entire knife is tough, and it's sporting the cold steel triad lock, which, you know, I'm sure has been mentioned many times right down in the comments section, is the, well, one of the strongest locks of all time. The other ones also being designed by Andrew Demko, the Scorpion lock and the Shark lock. Yeah, so it's got all the, you know, just incredible toughness, durability, all of that stuff, which is, you know, something I point out with a lot of cold steel knives like this is also massively overkill. You'll never push this knife to its limits with, you know, natural human strength. You'll never ever do that. In fact, you will break every other part of this knife before the triad lock fails. So it's like I've said this many times. You'll have just like a chunk of shrapnel where there's a triad lock locking out what's left of the blade, right? But if you're really going in and you're really testing the durability of it, well, the blade will fail far before the triad lock does, right? Using a knife for normal knife things will never require that much durability, but it's a great selling point, and it does. Sounds like I'm really coming down on cold steel knives, and you know, the truth is I like cold steel knives. I actually really like the triad lock, and I kind of honestly enjoy the intense and oftentimes humorous marketing. Now, you know, cold steel isn't the same thing anymore. It's turned into, it was bought out by whatever the company, I can't remember. And this is I believe something that was around during the normal days of the, you know, cold steel, like the true cold steel company. Yeah, it's another thing that's very similar to all that other stuff. We have a handle that is gigantic but confines you into a very specific spot. It is plenty comfortable. Like, you know, if I'm holding it here, I think, you know, if I'm going to work with this knife and hold it right here, this is the most comfortable position. Again, you're quite a long ways from the part of the cutting edge where it's going to clear the tactical rectangle unicorn horn. But you're going to end up putting so much more effort into the cut because you're so far away from it. So it's like, well, and, you know, a lot of people say, well, that's, you know, it's a tactical hand position so that you're locked in and you're not going to drop it, you know, when you're facing off against your adversary. All right. I believe that, you know, maybe in exactly that situation, this would work really, really well, right? It just seems like it's more of an inconvenience than anything else for a very, very specific and extremely unlikely situation. Fit and finish is all right. I kind of like the rock texture pattern, right? I mean, it offers a little bit of traction and it kind of looks cool. So there you go. This is a tip-up only carry knife, which is, I find that funny. I pretty much, you know, just looking at this, if I didn't see where the holes were for the pocket clip mount, I would automatically assume that is definitely a tip-down carry knife, you know what I mean? But yeah, you can mount it for left or right-handed carry, which is great. It's ambidextrous, so true right or left-hand carry. That's nice. The pocket clip is just a simple stamped-out steel clip. It'll work. The bill is flat at the end, so you're going to be fighting it when you put it back into your pocket. Fortunately, you know, most people don't care too much about the tactical speed It's used to put the knife back in the pocket. It really only matters that it comes out quickly, right? So yeah, it'll work for that. The knife locks out completely and totally solid. No blade play. That's pretty standard for the triad lock. And it definitely, I mean, closes with enough weight. I mean, just the tension when you pass that event horizon with a triad lock, there's no way that you're gonna like whip this thing. You risk, if you're gonna like try and do a tactical whip, like whipping this thing out, number one, that's pointless and stupid, but if you're gonna do that, you're more likely to throw this thing than anything else. The knife is centered, absolutely, so that's nice. There was another point I was gonna make. Oh yeah, so while this can be opened one-handed, right? Unless you wanna, you know, in a situation where someone's like, hey, I just need a knife real quick. There's always those billies who are like, well, I would just, you know, I'd use the wave anyway, right? Someone's just trying to do something simple, like, you know, there's like a shipment or something at work. And they're like, do you get a knife? And I left the box cutter on the thing. And, you know, there are people out there who would whip this thing out of their pocket and go ahead and use the wave, right? Why? Like, it doesn't, you could just pull it out and open it, because that's not cool enough, right? It needs to be pulled out and, yeah, right? It has to, because it has to. You need to let that person know, like, hey, I'm the type of guy who carries a cold steel Spartan at work. So yeah, that's kind of crazy. But the problem is that the normal way you would open and close this, right? If you're trying to, you know, come off as not dangerous and normal as possible in a scenario that doesn't call for tactical speed, pulling this thing out of your pocket, number one, the fact that this exists, like this is being carried by somebody is just gonna be alarming. It just is. Like, I don't like it either as a knife guy. I wish that everybody was just totally okay with knives. That'd be great, but they just aren't, right? Especially ones that look like this. So there's no real way to like open this. I mean, like, here's the Ontario Rat 2. You pull it out and you go like this and you make the cut and you put it away, and it's really not that big of a deal. This thing just has to be a big deal no matter what. It's slow, big, clunky opening, and then you got to push the triad lock thing, and then you got to turn it and close it. That's the fastest way to do this one-handed, right? There is no cut, and it's gone, right? No, it's... Gotta fight it to get it. Hold on a sec. I gotta pull my pocket clip. There we go. Just smash it down in there. There we go. It doesn't really fit too well in the pocket, but there we go. Yeah, that sucks. No part of me would ever carry something like this. Like, this is a fun thing. This is like to show somebody, like, look at this. And it's plenty durable. Like, whatever you do with it, it's very unlikely you're gonna break it, right? And again, in a very specific scenario where you need to use something like this to defend yourself, yeah, I bet that this would kind of work. It's just that, you know, the likeliness of that occurring is so low that you're really just inconveniencing yourself. Like this, you know, most of the time, you're walking around and you're like, I'm ready. Got a knife to open this box? Yeah, here, I got this. All right. But I'm ready though, just in case, right? For to be jumped. Yeah, most of the time you're just going to be cutting regular stuff open with it. So it's just going to start to feel kind of crazy, which is oftentimes, you know, people, and I kind of went through this too. I just thought it'd be so cool when I was younger, much younger, and getting into knives. It'd be so cool to carry around something like this all the time. And slowly, I still like big knives, but I've kind of, you know, gravitated towards stuff that's more reasonably sized and just a little bit easier to get out and use, right? Spider code, just get out and use it and put it away and you're done, right? Mostly stuff like this. Like, this is the kind of thing that I EDC every day because that's, you know, it's just a lot more convenience. It's a lot less insane, a lot less over the top. But stuff like this is fun. And for those of you who made it to the end of the review, right? I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people who, you know, rage quit in the middle of it. Yeah, I get it. this is cool. And you're just like, yeah, I mean, Complex, I get it. Like, I get what you're saying. I just really like stuff like that, right? I just want to make sure, like, I'm going to carry it. I'll adapt to it. It's probably going to be a massive inconvenience, but I kind of just enjoy carrying stuff like that and knowing that it's going to be durable enough to, you know, tackle whatever I decide to throw at it, right? So can it do that? Yeah, the answer is yes. It absolutely can. So if that's the reason you want to buy it, right, then knock yourself out. I'm not gonna judge you. The nice thing here is that this is $75. It's really not all that expensive for what you get. So I don't really have a problem with it. Can I recommend it to everybody? Absolutely not. This thing is completely and totally ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense for the vast majority of people. But it looks cool, and for some people, that's all that counts. That's pretty much it today, guys. I do appreciate the person who sent this in. I still enjoyed looking at this, and it is, I mean, let's be real, it is pretty cool, right? Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.